I am back from Card Party, and then I did Disney for like a week with the family, the kids, my wife. It was a great time. My business partner came down there. We had some other family members come down there. Went to the park every day. The weather was super hot. It was crazy. I went into the Epcot Japan area with the Pokemon stuff. It was super overpriced. I was gonna buy something to open up, and I was like, holy buckets, this is way too much. I can't do it. But it was a lot of fun. We had one day where it rained a lot. I'm not going to talk about Card Party too much today. Card Party was a lot of fun. It was great seeing so many amazing content creators, so many creators. It's just fantastic. So many great members of the community, just catching up with everybody, hanging out. It was so much fun. Oh my goodness, I had such a blast. Love you guys. Thank you so much. It was so great to meet everybody. I didn't get to go through the vending hall as much as I would have liked, but we'll talk about Card Party moving forward a little bit. We are on day, I don't even know what it is. It's like day 175-ish, day 175 of recording content every day. I want to get to half a year. Originally, I said I was going to get to a full year, but I did record videos prior to going down to Card Party, so that's why we had videos continue every day, and then I did a few shorts down there that I was able to kind of put out to keep the streak going. So we're on day like 175. So I want to get through basically June, and then on July, I really want to flip the script and start going to leagues, start doing more vlog type style content. This video is going to be a little bit different. There's not really charts that we're going to look at. We are going to look at some information on different websites, but it's going to be different than I like the market. I really love the market, but I want to kind of break out of my shell and do a lot more stuff and keep things fun and fresh and new, and I've been talking about it for a while, but I really just have to get more comfortable doing it, and that the only way to do that is to go out. So thank you so much for these last 175 days of putting out content on YouTube, whether it be a short or a long form, or if you have watched a live. We're going to go live tomorrow and just do a chill stream. But if you have watched every single video, can you comment down below? If you've watched every single one so far this year, I love you so much. Thank you so much for all the support. Obviously, YouTube is a big into views and things like that. I mean, fully transparent. Obviously, you get paid for the amount of views, for the length of retention, and things like that. And that really helps me to give away as much as I possibly can and continue to give away stuff moving forward. So thank you so much. Obviously, this YouTube channel is as much yours as it is mine. So I love you guys. Thank you so much for all the support. But we're going to talk about something that I've wanted to talk about for a while. I just haven't had time to do it. And that's the buyouts, the manipulation, the Pokemon card craziness that's going on. While I was gone, something happened that almost made me, it did make me frustrated, and I really wanted to cover this topic because if you've been around Pokemon for a long time, if you study the market a lot, if you look at this stuff a lot, like, you know all this stuff already. This is not going to really be, there might be a few things here and there that you pull out of this video, but if you're somebody who's more of a casual collector, if you're somebody who kind of pays attention to some things, but for the most part, you like playing the card game, or you like just collecting things casually, you don't worry about all that stuff, there's a lot of stuff you got to be really careful about in this hobby. And one of those things, unfortunately, is TCGPlayer. And I love TCGPlayer. I think it's a really, really great tool to utilize, whether you're a storefront or whether you're just a collector, because you can sell off some of those unwanted bulk cards, some of those trainer cards we talk about that do have a little bit of value, so that way you can stick that money back into your Pokemon card collection. Your goal is to, every time you crack a booster pack, is to make that booster pack as cheap as you possibly can. Or every time you buy a single, you want to make it as cheap as you possibly can. And while I think the best route is probably to go the single route, is to buy singles, I think that's going to be the best for you financially when it comes to building your Pokemon card collection. It can be very tough. We look at TCGPlayer a lot. We look at the graphs a lot. We look at the market price a lot. We look at things that move, the ebbs and flows, and it's crazy. But there's obviously other sources that you can utilize to buy Pokemon cards. You can join Discords. You can join, obviously, on Instagram. There's people who sell stuff. There's groups on Facebook that you can utilize. Reddit groups, Twitter claim sales. There's places all over the place via social media that you can use, but you can also use, there's different trading card stores out there, and then there's different websites like Amazon, eBay, where you can buy Pokemon cards, and then there's TCGPlayer. TCGPlayer tracks market data for TCGPlayer. They're not tracking market data for eBay. They're not tracking market data for what happens on Facebook sales. And they shouldn't. They shouldn't do that. They should just focus on TCGPlayer sales. However, when you have the awareness and you have the understanding that cards are purposely being manipulated in buyouts, you can see patterns happening. I do think, and maybe this is just me being dumb, and you can let me know in the comments section down below, like, hey Fanny, there's just no way that they can determine that. There's no way that, I feel like they should be able to rule out certain sales that are clearly manipulating the market. And we're going to take a look at a couple examples here. So I'm going to flip you guys around so you can see exactly what I'm talking about. This was an article that they put out on May 8th. This is why are Pokemon card prices going nuts? And there's a lot of different variables that go into this, but I would assume that TCGPlayer, which is a big company, has a lot of people that work for it and obviously owned by eBay now and backed by eBay, and there's a lot of data that's out there. But I feel like you could run queries on like SQL or something like that where you can determine outliers, like things in the algorithm that are obviously an outlier, where the amount of sales in a certain day are abnormal, very, very abnormal. So we're not going to talk about, we're going to scroll down right here. Many high-end Pokemon cards have hit all-time highs in 2024, including cards that were being chased back in 2021. And some of the price spikes are happening virtually overnight, with cards selling for twice as much one day as they did before. So what's going on? The short answer, as many have suspected, is that cards are being bought out. Buyers are purchasing multiple copies of these cards at once, presumably in an effort to make their prices spike so they can resell the cards at a higher price. But that's not the whole story. If every buyout was guaranteed to turn a profit, speculators would buy out. Yeah, I agree with that part of it. But if there are buyouts happening, and we can agree as a company that buyouts are happening, I feel like we need to do something about it. Like the market price on TCGPlayer, and TCGPlayer obviously they need to make sure that they take ownership of their price points. Like their price points are something that they're setting, they're establishing. When you go in and you sell a card on TCGPlayer, there are 3 different options. You can sell it, you can make your own price, or you can go off the median price, you can go off the market price, or you can go off the lowest near mint price, so the lowest based on the condition that you are posting. So the market price that's established, so if a card is being bought out and the price skyrockets overnight, one of the suggested prices to list your card at is the market price. Now that's great for sellers if it's much, much higher, if it jumped way up, but it's a little weary for buyers. And that's something that I feel like there needs to be some way that you can understand what's going on. That's why it's important to be vigilant. Now, I do think that TCGPlayer needs to take some ownership of this. If there's something happening, those sales need to be ruled out, or there needs to be some sort of alert or something weird that's going on. Like there are things that if you have ever traded stocks before, you can have an alert that says like this stock has extremely volatile over the past X amount of days or something like that. There's an alert, I'm sure, that could be put out. Now, a lot of times you could have a market correction, you could have things like that. And I understand that there's only so much TCGPlayer can do. And that's why I really wanted to record this video. I'm not blaming TCGPlayer at all. I do think that it would be nice if they would do something more for the buyer, more to protect the buyer. But I understand that they also are running a business and they want to make sure they do everything fairly and equally and things like that. I want to make sure that you guys make the best decisions when it comes to spending your collection dollars. So just be very careful. Obviously, TCGPlayer has admitted that there are buyouts happening, and that's really why I wanted to talk about this article here, because they can see in their queries that buyouts are happening, that there's abnormal things happening, what they can do. It would be great if they would take some recommendations or brainstorm, and maybe they are, and maybe they have. But we're going to look at this Gengar and Mimikyu right here, because this one is the one that went a little bit bonkers over the past week. This is a really cool card. We've talked about Gengar before. Gengar historically is a super popular Pokemon. Its cards have always done extremely well, but its market price, now 52 listings, and this is something that you really want to pay attention to. The number of listings that are available on TCGPlayer is not indicative of the number of listings that are available everywhere. So this is just, okay, TCGPlayer, the amount of sellers, there's a lot of sellers on TCGPlayer. There are 52 of them that have a copy available, at least one copy available on TCGPlayer. The alternate art, obviously, we talked about the skyrocket of those, you know, a year and a half ago or so, 301. Okay, that makes sense. But in what world does the regular art, super cool card, pass up the full art, which is going to have a much more difficult pull rate? Now, I understand, yeah, it looks a little bit cooler, but at the same time, let's click on Gengar and Mimikyu. Now, this card jumped up to a market price of 110, basically over the span of one day. So it was $50, right around $50. You can see 50, $38, starting to move up a little bit. And then I'm assuming, and I haven't really looked at the latest sales, I'm assuming buyouts happened pretty much immediately. New prices got established, a new market price got established, and it jumped all the way up to $111, basically in the span of 10 days. So from June 5th, when it was sitting right around $70, and then all of a sudden June 15th, it's at $107, and then June 20th, it's at $111. So basically over the span of 2 weeks, it went from a $50 card all the way up to $110, $111. That's the established market price on TCGPlayer. If you look at the latest sales and you click on more data here, it's really important to look at this. So you can look at near mint copies here. We can look at all the sales that have happened. There's a couple that have happened. I don't know what the this is Chinese. And this is the other thing too, like there needs to be more transparency. Okay, is this being included in the market? I would assume it's not. 623, there was one sold for $95.55. On 622, there was one sold for $32.95. Again, that's Japanese. 622, that's a Japanese one. And then you've got 621, there's a bunch sold. 614, 616, we've got one for $107.74. One for $150 on 613. That seems a little sus. Like that seems a little bit weird. If we go down to the 9th, there's some that sold for $125, $109. But if we scroll down more, we look at May 31st, you've got 45, you've got 56. On June 1st, you've got $49.99 and $54, which was the market price, which made a little bit of sense. It obviously is a very popular card. And then you get all these sales on 6.4, 6.5, 6.6, 6.7, 6.8, where it really starts pumping the card up and having a new established market price of $110. But if you go over to eBay, now eBay, we have given sellers a week now to post cards higher price, but you can still buy it for $69.95, a near mint copy of it. That's a buy it now. You've got a $50 one that has no bids. There's one for $70 right there. Here's one for $80, $105. If we scroll down and we look at the actual sold items, so we just look at the sold items, $51.97. That was with 13 bids. Obviously, this one was 26 bids up to $80. You could buy a PSA 9 one for $125. This one was $70. Sold on June 22nd with bids for $56. So significantly cheaper. An established market price of this one would be closer, now that there's a lot of attention paid to it, would probably be between $50 and $60. This one $39.95. If we go down June 18th, this one is a buy it now for $45. So even though we're seeing sales on June 23rd, 24th, 22nd for $100+, you can look on eBay, and you can find them for much cheaper. Now, I'm not saying there has to be a way that, I mean, with TCGPlayer kind of being owned by eBay, and I know they're kind of trying to keep things separate, and I haven't researched a whole lot about how the entities work in this, but there's got to be a way to be able to combine the market price on all of it together. I know like Pokedata.io does a really good job of establishing a market price based off of eBay, based off of comps and things like that. TCGPlayer that make a lot more sense. Here's the Charizard and Braixen right here from Cosmic Eclipse. So this is the full art right here. This is the last 3 months of data. This card was $30 for the longest time. Like the longest time, it was $30. Full art. This one, the Reshiram and Charizard, that was also around $30, somewhere around there. And then opportunity arose, it kept climbing, and then it goes from a $50 card to $71, $72, and a new market price is basically established over the span of a couple of weeks. And if you look at the sales, a lot more sales happening around the beginning of June, end of May, when this card started really blowing up in price. But if you look, it was selling for $34.19. There was not, look at how many sales there were in April. So 417, there's a couple, and then not another one sold for a week, where it sold on April 24th for $56, April 25th for $34. A couple days go by, but then all of a sudden you have 519, 1, 2, 3, 4 sales that happened, and then a couple on the 23rd, and then the 24th, and then the 27th. So we went a week at one point in time, and then all of a sudden, beginning of June, 6.4, 6.4, 6.6, 6.6, 6.6, 6.6, 6.6, 6.7. There's a lot more sales that are starting to happen because people are looking at this card specifically, a lot more eyes on it. So then it would be nice to see if there was queries that could be established that are like, okay, this is an abnormal time right now. This is abnormal. This is volatile. This is a weird time for this to happen. So if this is a card you're looking at adding to your collection, position, you want to make sure you're looking at, okay, you might be looking at this graph and be like, holy buckets, this Charizard has gone nuts. I really got to get a copy before it gets too high. But you have to look and be like, okay, well, what's actually going on here? Because it wasn't selling that regularly in April. It wasn't selling that much in March. It wasn't selling that much even at the beginning of May. And all of a sudden at the beginning of June, it started selling a lot more. This card doesn't make a whole lot of sense to buy right now. Let me go look at eBay and see how eBay's doing. Well, way cheaper, right? Like you can get an LP one for $35. There's one here for $42. There's one here for $49.99. That's a little bit more, obviously. This one's got 4 bids for $20.50. This one's got 2 bids for $15.50. So a lot different as far as prices go. Yeah, you still have some that are going to be posted the same price or market price, close to market price, but much different for some of these that are available. So if we go down and we look at the sold items, and this is just a couple examples that I wanted to kind of talk about. 4101 for 5 bids. This one was buy it now for $30 on June 20th. So less sales, meaning this card's not moving as fast on eBay, but all of a sudden on TCGPlayer, well, we can kind of corner the market and make that price change. Like there's not a market price that's listed on eBay. It's just whatever you think you want to put your card at as far as the price goes, or whatever. If you want to put it no reserve, auction, buy it now, whatever, it's a lot different. They're $26 on June 19th. Well, what sold on June 19th here? Like there wasn't one, but on June 21st, one sold for $59.99, and 2 days earlier on eBay, it sold for $26. So it needs to be something where you're looking, if there's cards that you're looking at and you see a graph where it's moving way up, make sure you look at other sources that are out there, because you don't want to overspend on anything. Like that's just not going to help you grow your collection efficiently, effectively, and it's something you really need to pay attention to. So TCGPlayer is great. Like it's a great tool. It's a great thing to utilize, and there's a lot of great things about TCGPlayer. But in my mind, this is something that just needs to get fixed. I don't know how they can do it. That's their job. Like that's something that they, in my opinion, need to figure out. And you can, like I said, let me know in the comment section if it's like, well, no, this is how it is, and you should be fanning like this is way off. This is how it is, and deal with it. Get over it. But this is something that every Pokemon card collector needs to make sure that they pay attention to, so that way they don't make bad decisions when it comes to how they're spending their collection dollars to grow their collection. Because the last thing you want to do is buy this card at $72, $73, or buy this Gengar and Mimikyu at $110 under the impression that, oh, well, this is going to continue to go up, when it's not selling for anywhere near that based off of recent sales on eBay. So it's something that you really need to make sure that you're paying attention to, because the last thing that you want to do is buy something that's only worth about half the price that you're spending on it. So I wanted to kind of cover this. Like I said, it's a little bit different than price charting, but I want to make sure that everybody understands it's best to shop around, look around. Like for example, my storefront, like sometimes I'm going to have the best deal out there. A lot of times I'm not, and a lot of it deals with margins and things like that. Like there's people who can get, they run deals at wholesalers, or maybe they spent cheaper on a card, maybe they got a really good deal on a collection. So it's something that every store needs to list things at their margin, and that's something that you need to pay attention to. Sometimes it's going to work, sometimes it doesn't, but you got to do what's best for you when it comes to spending your dollars. So I want to kind of cover that. I hope you enjoyed the content. If you did, please hit that subscribe button down below, leave a like, leave a comment. It goes a super long way for the algorithm. It's great to be back. Now I can't talk, I can't do, like, we're just back to typical old Fanny. But thank you so much for all your support over the last 175 days. I love you guys. You guys are absolutely amazing. Thank you so much for everything. Talk to you again tomorrow. Until next time, peace.